Greetings everyone, my name is Ted and welcome back to another episode of TEDDS. Today's episode will be discussing the game Firewatch, a recent game I played. So, I don't really know where to really start with Firewatch, but Firewatch was a game that I found really interesting and did kind of have a very deep effect on me because I don't know what it is, but I've always had like the idea of doing something like that. If you don't know the premise of the game, it's a guy who takes this summer job as as a as a fire watcher, and you have these conversations with this other fire watcher and such, and just it's a basic walking sim of this. There wasn't anything that was special to it, but it was a game that I really found was very, very pretty, very beautiful, it was just lovely, and it was a lovely change because I was used to, the games that I'd always been playing, but to be playing a game that there was no real, you know, immediate objective. There wasn't any form of, failure or stuff. You couldn't die, or you don't think you could die. Maybe I was wrong, but, just the feeling of just complete, isolation, and I think that's what really made the game work so well. But I've always had but as I said, I always had the idea of kind of getting away from life and just seeing if I can, take myself out of my own elements, because I've had it happen to me before where, like, there are moments in every person's life where they realize that where they lose someone or something, and even though, humans, even though there are nice things, we adapt, and we must, sometimes for the best, sometimes for the worst. And that, and I've had it happen. I was, as I said before, as like a kid, I was, masking a lot. That's a form of adaptation of very much, adapting to the surroundings and trying to, you know, feel like you can fit in and survive. Even though they're two different things, but the game was to highbrow players, they probably see it as very boring, but that was the point. It's very kind of stripped back. It's very kind of, there wasn't a lot of fuss so much, intricacies, and that's what I enjoyed about it. I liked the the idea of just sort of being in the wilderness, and just being this guy who is of course very heartbroken and just tried, because even the setup for the game was very important, because you talk about the protagonist who you play as meeting this girl, and she gets, and you build a life together and such, and then sadly she gets dementia, and she eventually has to move back with her family, and that's how you take the job, and it's sort of that feeling of where of trying to escape the pain, because in a way I relate to that, because and I think some people would relate to that, because I've been in the position where of course somebody someone you love moves away, or someone's as such, and you relate to that feeling of just sort of kind of trying to escape your pain. And I mentioned that the game reminded me of an album called Forever Emma. For Emma Forever Ago. That's it. By Bon Iver. And the reason why is because it reminded me of the story of that album, because it was an album done by the lead singer of the band by himself, and it was made in like a cabin in the woods and such, with like a microphone and a guitar and such, and very kind of stripped down production, but it's a fantastic album. It is. And those who might disagree, can fight me, but and I even used the song "The Walls" for the thumbnail. The things I liked about it was just sort of how it didn't have to. It was just so plain and boring and so simple. Because even though I had a bit of confusion because going into it I wasn't quite sure what it was. But like there was moments where like you could always have the idea that like something was like someone was following you, because it's the hidden thing about you're being watched, who's been watching you, and what is it someone after us or such. And it was more kind of because of the moment, but when you're by the lake and you get hit and knocked out, and then you find like the government research site, and you wonder if it's all connected, and then spoiler alert, by the end of the game you find a little boy in a cave, a dead little boy in a cave, and it sort of has that all around thing of the adventure and the mystery, and how it didn't really have to rely on too much of like a really like bendy twist. Like it was a twist, but it wasn't like something that was that was overly shocking. Like even though the person who's been watching you was the father of that dead little boy, and the whole idea of the guilt of like being blamed for the death of his son, which is sad, but which is quite horrible, but still has that layer of mystery of just like, did he kill his son? Because you do find like you do find place or place you do find like a little like place that's got like toys and stuff and notes and stuff. But it's a really really lovely. It was a really really lovely game, and a real like. It's one playthrough that I think I'll look upon fondly, because it was done. It was so stripped down and so calm in a way, and it just never felt like it had a it didn't feel like there was any pressure, any stress to really finish. It was sort of that thing, just like, take your time, which I like in a game, because as I said, it was different type of media for a game to be in, which I don't think many games really are fond of doing. Many games are fond of doing, and there probably are other games that do that, but it's that type of thing where I don't think I'd ever I'll always look upon that playthrough quite fondly. So yeah, that's the end of this episode of TEDDS Vault. Hope you enjoyed. Vault closed.